the games and get into it. So our first game, obviously, this is the one we're gonna have to talk about. Michigan beats Ohio State 30-24. Guys, when we said this was gonna be a good game, we were not lying, and nobody else was lying either when they said this was gonna be a good game. This was blow for blow. Ohio State comes back, ties it 17-17. Michigan responds. Michigan, Will Johnson goes down. Zach Zinter goes down. They remain resilient. They are able to pull it off. Ohio State tries to fight back, but Kyle McCord makes one last costly decision. Maybe it was hit. On the arm, maybe he was hit on the arm because the pressure got there. I don't know for sure, but it was an interception. Devastation for the Buckeyes. Connor, what were some of your thoughts on this game?
Listen, man, I had a lot of money tied up into this one, so
So
that one
you're
hurt
you're
me.
fe you're either feeling really good or real bad right now.
Not very good, I'll tell you that. So I was pretty confident in the Buckeyes heading into this game, but I have to give Michigan the respect they deserve. Losing some star players like that, I mean, losing Zinter, especially in the fashion they did. I didn't see the injury, thankfully, and I heard it was pretty gross. So
They wouldn't even show it on
hopefully,
the broadcast, they said.
yeah. So yeah, hopefully, he heals up in due time and does well. But yeah, I mean, that was everything we thought it was going to be. It was Michigan was pretty dominant running the ball. Maybe not dominant, but felt like they were controlling the ball that way. And Michigan State, or sorry, Ohio State. I don't know what I'm talking about. Ohio State made the two errors that I think we thought they had to just stay away from the whole time. It was either going to be a fumble or an interception. I think we all thought was going to come from McCord, and unfortunately, early on, seeing that from McCord, I think it set the tone. It did turn around, so it was good to see, Henderson get involved and Marvin Harrison. I mean, you just can't leave those guys out of the offense there. You got to get them the ball as much as possible. It was just a little too late. Shout out to Michigan, though. I mean, they did it. They robbed me.
Zach, what are your thoughts?
Um, I think you mentioned it at the top, JR, the resiliency really stood out to me. You think with Jim Harbaugh gone, you think that would lead to more confusion. I thought Sharon Moore outcoached Ryan Day in this game. And so I thought he did a good job. It called a couple of key wrinkles with, I think it's Alex Orji, the backup, coming in and getting a couple of big runs to open up that run game in the second half. They had the halfback pass that really got them down close to the goal line. Zach Zinter goes out, maybe their best offensive player. And the next play, Blake Corum runs in for a touchdown. Will Johnson goes out, I think in the fourth quarter, their best cover corner, and they're able to get the pick at the end of the game. And so I thought, and it's not like Ohio State didn't counterpunch, right? I think, Connor, you made a really good point. Like they were pushing, they got the ball into the hands of their two best players in Henderson and Harrison. But I think the resiliency of Michigan really stood out to me. I think McCord, the first pick was inexcusable on that slant route. I think the thing that really concerned me going into the game, besides McCord's inconsistencies, is the linebackers in the run fits, which we saw that in the second half, but also the special teams. And I think that's maybe an underrated piece of this. Michigan dominated them in the special teams. Like, they pinned Ohio State back once, where Ohio State had a chance to pin them back and they didn't. Michigan hit a 50-yard field goal. Ohio State missed a 52-yarder. So I thought Ryan Day relied on the worst part of his team too much. And instead of going for it on fourth early, I know it was in their own side of the field, but trusting your punter to do something that he has not been good at. And then at the end of the first half, he chooses instead to go for it on fourth down. He waits and takes the timeout and then tries to kick a 52-yard. I thought those sequences, it didn't lose them the game, but I thought they were things that did not help them. Whereas Michigan was willing to be aggressive. And I think that really, that didn't decide the game, but it certainly didn't help. And Ryan Day, I think, could have gotten control back, even from the pick.
Yeah, I think in the first half, the two biggest blunders that Ryan Day made was obviously the play you were just talking about there, letting Jesse Mirko punt that ball and trying to pin him deep there. I mean, he's not been great at that all season long. He's had his spurts here and there where he's done well, but you got to go for that. You got to get that, if nothing else, just to signify, to Michigan and to the entire crowd at Ann Arbor, like, we're here to play and we're going to dominate you. I mean, there are aspects of that in football that you really don't understand unless you're on the field playing. And I think that, Sherrone Moore decided, he said, listen, we're going to tell Ohio State that. We're going to go for it on fourth down. We're going to dominate them. We're going to hand it off to Blake Corum, and Blake Corum's going to get at least a yard every single time, because guess what? He's Blake Corum and he can do that. And I don't think Ryan Day had the trust in his offensive line or the trust in TreVeyon Henderson to do that. And I think it was evident there at the end of the first half that he didn't have the trust in Kyle McCord to not throw an interception, so he wanted to kick a 50-plus yard field goal. That's on the special teams coordinator for Ohio State. I know not a lot of people know who the special teams coordinator for Ohio State is, but his name's Parker Fleming, and he's not very good. Because he doesn't know his kicker's range. He doesn't tell Ryan Day what his kicker can and can't do. He doesn't communicate to Ryan Day what his punter can and can't do. I mean, when you're the special teams coordinator, that's your job, to go to the head coach and say, hey, my guy can hit from 50 plus. Hey, my punter can get it, coffin corner here and make this happen. Like that's your job, to be able to work with those guys and make sure they can make those things happen. Parker Fleming better be a really good recruiter, because he's not getting it done in the special teams area. And as far as I'm concerned, even if you don't necessarily trust Kyle McCord to the fullest extent there, you've got 30 seconds left on the clock, a timeout. Try to run a quick out, try to run something, and just tell Kyle McCord, if it's not there, overthrow him. Just get it out of bounds, live to throw another ball or something like that. It was baffling to see Ryan Day not take some of those chances, because I thought, we saw the Georgia Ryan Day last year really go for it with everything. And we saw almost the opposite of that. We saw Ryan Day almost get into a shell and say, I don't want to go for it. I don't want to do that. Maybe that's him saying he trusted his defense, but this wasn't Penn State. Michigan's offense is not Penn State's offense. You can't do that. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on the touchdown there by Roman Wilson. We don't have to break the entire play down to the largest extent, but just tell me, what are your thoughts on that touchdown? Did you think it was a touchdown? Did you think it should have been overturned? Connor, you know what play I'm talking about, I assume.
Yeah.
What's your thought? What'd you think?
So to me, I think I was a little bit blinded. I wanted it to not be a touchdown, so I was just so convinced that it was coming out early and so on. But whatever the call was made on the field, I think was going to end up being the call that stood. There was just not enough there to really overturn it. I think it was just one of the best throws I've seen in a long time from McCarthy leading up to it. He zipped that over two people and just dropped that in the bucket. I think he broke the plane. I'm not sure if it was moving or not, but I mean, just shout out to Roman Wilson, because that was a hell of a play, man.
Yeah, I agree. JJ made one heck of a throw there, and to have the confidence in your receiver to not only run that route, get there, but just to make that catch as well. Zach, what'd you think?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that if you can't 100%, like if it's not 100% indisputable, you can't overturn it. And so even though I would have loved to see it overturned, I looked at it and I'm like, I don't think you can overturn that. It's very similar to the Julian Fleming fumble and recovery at the end of the game. I'm like, there's just not enough there. And I thought the officials actually did a good job of letting it stand. There are certainly things to gripe about with the officials. JT Tuimoloau out holding. I don't know if he came back with a jersey, but that one I felt was. I just don't think you can overturn it. And it's a heck of an effort by Denzel Burke, but I just don't think you can overturn it.
The officiating was one of those games where I felt like it was really, really bad, but I didn't really feel like it was really, really bad for a certain team. Like,
Agreed.
I felt like there was holding on both sides. Obviously, the JT one is kind of the one we get the best look at, but there were other times where I saw it. They didn't really show the replay, but I kind of saw it, and I was like, "Oh, that was holding on Josh Simmons," or "Ooh, that was holding on Josh Fryer." You know, like different things like that. Like I said, you didn't really get as good of an angle on it as you maybe did the JT one, but I didn't think the officiating was great for either side. I think both sides kind of got the bad end of the stick on it. And I just couldn't believe myself when Robin Wilson is sitting out of bounds and they're reviewing that thing. Like, I was like, how are you the line judge? And you see a guy sitting out of bounds catching the ball, and you're gonna like, I don't know. How do you review that? How do you take time out of the game to do that? I don't know. I just was baffling to me. But like I said, it was bad on both sides. I think both sides felt the bad officiating. But I guess at least it was fair. That's the best you can say. Thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.